Gonna show you what I know. Break it free from the mainstream, the studio machine. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. Going all the way. Indie Film Nation. You know it's gotta be Indie Film Nation. Indie Film Nation. It's gotta be Indie Film Nation.
The computer hacker group Anonymous is claiming tonight that it took down the website of the Federal Appeals Court in San Francisco this afternoon.
They took down Senate.gov servers. They've taken down HB Gary. Sony's claiming they did $150 million worth of damage.
So many confidential files that tonight, because of these hackers, can be in the hands of anyone.
Visa, MasterCard, the PayPal situation.
The criminals who hacked into Sarah Palin's private email.
The Church of Scientology says Anonymous is a cyber terrorist group of religious bigots.
Anonymous and this other group called LulzSec. They seem to be wanting to prove a point.
Hi, it's Mike Smith here, and on today's program we have Brian Knappenberger, the writer-director of a fantastic documentary who's playing at the Slamdance Film Festival, We Are Legion, the story of hacktivism. Brian, welcome to the program, and firstly, tell me, what's the pitch for the story, or the summary of the idea for... What's the film?
I mean, the film explores the roots of hacktivism. Which is loosely using computer systems, hacking into computer systems to make a political point of some sort, or turning on computer systems in places of the world where they're being restricted. But what we do is we follow early groups and examples of that, things like Cult of the Dead Cow and Electronic Disturbance Theater, sort of anonymous-like groups that happened in the 90s or had similar tactics. And what we do is we set the stage for the hacktivist group that most people think about now, and that is Anonymous. And so we explore their roots and sort of examine where they came from.
One of the things with the groups like Anonymous, and hence the name, these people can be a little secretive. How did you permeate or penetrate this community? How did you first become aware of it, and what steps did you do to get involved and to find the people who could speak on behalf of this group?
Yeah, just hang out in the dark corners of the internet. No, but seriously, a lot of people ask me, did you infiltrate Anonymous, or did they sanction it or something? And I the answer to that is that it's not really how it works. It's a loose collective. It's a leaderless, sort of decentralized organization, but even organization is saying too much. It's a group of people, like-minded people, a series of relationships that have formed, and people that are surprisingly, consider their fractured nature, are surprisingly kind of a cohesive in terms of principle. But the way, they are hard to approach. People that are very active within the group are being hunted by the FBI often. Sometimes, they're trying to be found out by various private security firms, or even, sort of guerrilla-type journalists on the web, just trying to dox them, which is reveal their private information. So, understandably, they're a little cautious about people like me asking questions, but after a while you forge relationships with people, and what we try to do is forge enough relationships to get a sense of a group that's really very, very large and very sort of fractured.
Given that case, how did you actually go about putting together the documentary? What was and sort of how long has it taken you to go through that process?
Well, I first became aware of Anonymous when they attacked the Church of Scientology in 2008, and I was fascinated by those actions. And in fact, I considered making a documentary back then, but other things took over, and I was just, I didn't explore it, and we went on. And about just over a year ago, Anonymous came to the aid of WikiLeaks when MasterCard, Visa, and PayPal cut off financial services to WikiLeaks. Anonymous roared into action in a way that we hadn't seen up until that point, dwarfed their earlier kind of protest, and it was a different group of people, and it was a large kind of vibrant evolution of the group that happened all at once, and I was just amazed. I thought they would always be sort of linked to the Church of Scientology as a group, but turns out that they had evolved into something much bigger, and so that's essentially when I started making the documentary.
And what was your actual shooting schedule, or how did you actually coordinate the mechanics of it? Because obviously this may have been a project that you were filming, interrupted. And how was your shooting process?
Well, we started just doing our research for months and months, and talking to people like Gabrielle Coleman is in the film, who has done maybe more than anybody in terms of research and looking at at Anonymous, but also geek hacker culture that goes back. She's a very knowledgeable person. She's a consultant on the film, and so we talked to journalists that had followed them. And then maybe 6 or 8 months ago, we really started shooting a lot of stuff, filming a lot of stuff. And some people, some members of Anonymous, if you've seen the films, appear in the film non-disguised. One guy's been to jail and back, and there's no need to hide behind his identity anymore. And he wanted to sort of tell a story. Other people say they don't do illegal things, so they're not as active about hiding their identity. And but others, of course, were full, Skype chats with disguise, with mask, with voice distortion, nothing identifiable in the background.
You want to see Anonymous rise up? Try to shut down the message. Try to squash the message. Try to chill our speech. Then you'll see what Anonymous can do.
To the point where I still don't know who they are. So the interviews ranged from people perfectly willing to tell you their identity and, sort of identify with Anonymous.
With the actual story structure, obviously it's quite, internet and hacking and all that can be quite inaccessible to the audience, but one of the great things about We Are Legion is it's so accessible to anyone, even with the most little computer knowledge. How did you go about writing it? What were some of the real challenges of, did you write a script first, or did the real script sort of formulate when you'd obviously found all your interviews?
I sort of understood the story of Anonymous, but I wanted to get the sort of first-hand accounts. I wanted to get people's, in their words, what was happening. I didn't want to sort of make any assumptions about what I was getting into. Although we did a lot of research first, and then I write a script first. And although there's no narration in this film is entirely told by members of Anonymous and by people who have studied them. So, but I work as I write first in terms of finding interview bites and things like that, and putting them together in a structured way before we even go into editing. But to your point, I think this isn't a technical hacking documentary. I don't think there's anything particularly inaccessible about it to the average person. I think Anonymous's reach has it's pretty much reached everybody, and most people have heard about them. So this is kind of a primer on where they came from and who they actually are.
I mean, the other side of it is well, they do a lot of good and expose a lot of things, but then the release of private information, people's credit card details and all that, did you find that there was also a malicious side within the group amongst some of the individuals, or did they across the board feel like they were generally had a higher good? What was your sort of feelings?
I don't know if I would. Malicious is funny. There's a very kind of key part of the culture, which is lulz, which is a very sort of robust kind of pranksterism. And it's really funny a lot of times, and a lot of times you're embarrassed because there's a layer of maliciousness in there, but you find yourself kind of laughing. In terms of what was the second part of your question? The malicious.
Yeah, just the release of people's personal credit cards information, which obviously compromises individuals' personal security rather than the larger corporations.
Yeah. Right. So and within Anonymous too, there is a very there's a robust discussion and between a lot of people's. One of the great sort of things to say about Anonymous is that they're not unanimous, and there's a very kind of robust discussion going on about all kinds of raids and all kinds of actions. And some people think that this action is terrible, doesn't fit into what they're trying to do, and that there's this discussions going on all the time. The release of private information of people, particularly bystanders, people that don't really care. There may be a beef with a company or a corporation or a government, but the release of people's private information as a kind of collateral damage is, I would say, front and center in terms of controversy within the group. That and maybe the attacking the press. Some members feel very, very strongly that attacking the press is hypocrisy for a freedom of speech group. Others have done it. So there's a big debate there, and those two areas, attacking the press and releasing of people's personal information that they may not be offenders really, but caught in the crossfire, is it's a room for a huge debate within the group.
And with the, how much footage did you end up with it, and how long did it take the editing? Because obviously it's got a number of layers and themes in there. And one of the things is the version here that's premiered at Slamdance is such a tight cut, given that it covers such a broad range of issues. How long were you locked up in the editing room for?
We probably edited this film for about 6 weeks to get to a cut, and then I guess I should say in total it's probably 2.5 months in total. So we did a cut at a time, and then we kind of did some more interviews and decided how we were going to incorporate them again, and then we reapproached it and we did it. So maybe, to answer your question, maybe 2.5 months or so of editing, and shooting at the same time.
And what cameras were you using whilst you were shooting, and did you obviously receive any support from any arts institutions or anyone to keep this film financed and keep it going?
No support. It's self-financed. This is a labor of love in some ways. I mean, we're an independent journalists, but I think this is a really fascinating story. We shot all our interviews on HD video, except the most interesting thing were we do a number of Skype interviews for obvious reasons. Mostly to protect identity. In all cases, we tried to preserve whatever the subject, whoever I'm talking to, preserve what they wanted to do if they wanted to keep it totally secret and they didn't want me to know who they were, we went with that. If they were fine being on camera, it was sort of up to them how much of their identity we revealed. But some of that meant Skype interviews, which were just recorded, Skype, and it's grainy and it's gritty, but it was the only way to communicate in certain cases.
Now, with the film premiering here at Slamdance, what's the how are you planning on distributing the film?
I really don't know yet. We're talking to some people. I mean, I really want an online distribution that is in the spirit of the film. So we're working very hard on that. Believe it or not, we still need to finish in some ways. We still have some more. I mean, it's in pretty good shape right now, but we are still finishing up some elements. But as soon as we get that done, I'm hoping to do. I'm kind of just myself. I personally love theaters. Like I love seeing a movie with a group. I just love that, and I'm highly technically minded. I've got every gadget in the world, but there is something about seeing this idea that you're with other people and experiencing a film that way. So I would, in my best case scenario, I'd love to see this in theaters, but I also want a smart kind of online distribution.
And where can people find out more about the film and to keep posted at where it may end up screening and how it will be released?
We are legionthedocumentary.com, and we're gonna keep updating.
Brian, thank you very much for your time and congratulations on the film. Yeah. Cheers.